Today we'll see how we can execute by using, or how we can call our workflow by using the code and the API. Day before yesterday, I think we have seen we have called our servlet by using manual or by using a launcher. Like here, we have localhost 4502, and here we have options of the launcher and the workflow. Here you see there is the launcher option, and when you are clicking here, here we have one button that is start workflow. When you are going there, here when you are clicking here, we have options of the start workflow. So by using that, you have to select the payload and just write the title and just run it. So what you are doing, you are calling the server, you are calling workflow by using manually. If you want to call by using a launcher, here we have options like workflow, and it's a launcher. You have to click here and you have to create your own launcher. But if I want to call by using some API or the code, for that we have to write it. Like they have already provided the APIs, we have to use and we have to run our workflow. So for that, for running the workflow, what we need?
Manually
uh,
launcher and API program.
okay okay so now I'll tell you, if you want to run your workflow, okay, that means workflow is nothing but where your all the structure and all your structure and layout is stored inside your workflow model, is it? No. So inside a workflow model, everything will store. Yeah. So we can call by using three ways: first launcher, manually, and by using API and the code. Yeah. But in three ways we have two things common. Like first one is a payload. Payload is nothing but your path. That this is the meaning of the payload. No. So first, if you want to run by using a launcher, then we have to select the payload. After that, we have to select the model as well. Which model? That means you have created the workflow model, so we have to select that workflow model. Then our workflow will execute. Here also in the manually, we have to select both things. Like in the when you are selecting a manually, for that workflow model, you are currently on the workflow model. That means if I'm going back here you see start workflow, I'm just going inside this workflow, and now I'm just executing this workflow model. So I'm just selecting this one. So I have selected this one, and after that I'm just clicking in the start workflow. So they are asking for the payload path. So both thing it's necessary. First of all, that is workflow model, and second one is a payload. When I'm doing launcher by using launcher, so still again we have to select these two things. Like here add launcher, here we have options of the paths, that means payload, and here we have to select the workflow model. Here you see this is the workflow model, we have to select it. The same thing in our code as well. When you are trying to be execute by using API and the code, for that we need two things, that is payload and path, payload and workflow model. So for that, how we can fetch these things? So we have to write the code, but they have already written the code, we just simply need to use it. So some of the API they have already provided, we simply need to use it. Yeah. So just go there and just try to create it. So I'm just removing this all the stuff. Okay. Yeah. Now what I'm doing, first of all, see, we have to call the resource resolver. First of all, we have to take the resource resolver. We know that all our configuration, and if you want some extra functionality for your resource, then we have to use the resource resolver. But where is this resource resolver stored? It's stored, that means it is present inside our request interface. This is nothing but your interface, so it has present here. So this method will return the resource resolver, so we have to accept it. Come here. Yeah, we got the resource resolver, and once you got the resource resolver, now I need a workflow session. By using this, I need a workflow session. Okay, so how we can get it? But before that, we'll do one thing, we'll take the path. That means we need a payload, no? So how we can take the payload? So I'm using here servlet, so I want this workflow dynamically. Okay, that means if somebody pass here, no, like if he is calling like this localhost 4502, and after that here that guy is that means user is entering the path, and based on this path, that means if some path is entered by the user, for this path we need to create the version. That means we already have created the workflow model for the version. Okay, we knows that we have already created this workflow model. See the page version model. So this workflow model now I want to execute. Okay, so when somebody enter user, okay, if somebody enter the path, that means the page, then for this page we want to create the version. Okay, this is the version we want to create for this page. So how we can do that thing? So first of all we need this path, whatever the user enter. So we will take, how we can take, here request dot get parameter, we have get parameter, and here we have to add the information, that is page. After that now I'm just converting into a string, and now it will return in the form of string. Okay, so we got it. So you can simply write payload. Okay, this is the thing, we have written payload. After that done. Okay, that means what happened here, whatever the user enter information here all this information where it will store inside this page, and we are calling this page. Okay, and this page information will store inside your this payload. After that we'll simply check like if this payload is not null. So how we can check? So for that we have a string utils is not blank string, yeah, and after that payload. Nice. Okay, it's done now. Okay, so we got the payload. If user is not entered, okay, then it will throw the null pointer exception. So if you want to avoid null pointer exception, then you can use this string utils is not blank. It's not be blank, otherwise it will return the false result. Okay, so just go inside this, and now by using this resource resolver, okay, so by using this resource resolver, now I'm just taking the API of the workflow. Okay, so first of all what you need, workflow session, and this workflow session provides everything. Like consider now we have one API, that is workflow session. Okay, we have a workflow session, and for executing our workflow model we have to take the model first, like get model. We have to get the model, so this is the method. After that what we need the path, that is new workflow data. Okay, new workflow data method is also there. Okay, so this get model is responsible to get the models, so we have to write inside this. Okay, we can easily get the workflow model by using this new workflow data. Like we pass our path, that means our payload we pass inside this, and after that once we get these two things we have to run, that means we have to start the workflow. So for that we have one method, that is start workflow, W capital, and inside this we have to pass these two parameters. Okay, then your workflow will start. When you deploy, that time your workflow will start. But from where this method is present, this all the method is present inside your workflow session. So we need this. So how we can take, and from where we need it? Okay, so this all our information is stored inside our resource resolver. Here inside this resource resolver we have all the informations. Okay, that means all the configuration and resource level information is also stored there. If I select this page, that is EN, then this EN related information will store inside your resource resolver with the connectivity. Yeah, so from this resource resolver we have to convert this session. Yeah, that means in simple, all of this information where it will store inside our resource resolver. And what we want the workflow session. For what purpose? If you want to execute get model, new workflow data, and start workflow, if this method you want, okay, for this page, then you can simply do one thing. From this resource resolver you can convert this workflow session. Okay, but how we can convert? So for that we have one method, that is adapt to. So this adapt to method convert from resource resolver to workflow session object. So just go there, come here, come down, and not down, come inside here. Okay, so now we have a resource resolver dot adapt to, and here we have to write workflow session dot class. Okay, so when you are returning something inside this adapt to method, it will return accordingly. Like now here it will return the workflow session. So we got it, workflow session. So here I'm just simply writing workflow session. Okay, after that, once we got the workflow session, now we knows that all the method is stored inside our workflow session. So we have to get one by one. So first of all, I'm taking the model workflow session dot get model. Yeah, this is the model, and here we have to write the model. And we knows that our model store in two ways. First of all in config, and second one in our var folder. So we have to take the runtime. So here we have a var workflow models, and which one is our version? That is page version model. So you can just simply copy it. Okay, so we have copied and just paste it. After that, here this method it throws the exceptions, so you can just simply handle it. No, so you can write try, come inside this, close it here, and after that we have to write the catch exception e, and we will print something later. Okay, so we got this. So this method will return the workflow model. So just accept it. Yeah, we have it's written workflow model. Okay, we got it. Now we got the workflow model, but now the second step is we need a path. That means we need a payload. How we can take? So this payload is also present in our workflow session. So you have to simply call new workflow data. Yeah, we got it, new workflow data, and here we have to pass JCR underscore path. This is the JCR path. No, what are the value that you are entering here? This is JCR path. So we have to write it, and we have a payload. Now here you see which one is our path. That path is coming from our URL. So that means user will come here, and user will enter the page here. According to this page, this logic will execute. That means this page, first of all, it's going here inside your payload, and this payload is storing in your by using this method, it's storing in our payload. That means in this variable, or this variable, yeah, new workflow data. That means this payload will store inside this workflow data. So we have to accept it, workflow data. Yeah, import. Okay, so now we got everything. Like for executing the for executing our workflow, we need a workflow model and the path. We got the path, and we store this path inside our workflow data. We got the model, and we have stored inside our workflow model. Now these two things we have, and if you want to execute these two things, for that we have one method, that is start workflow. Okay, so it has present inside our workflow session and start workflow. Now we got the start workflow. So here we have to use the start workflow model and workflow data. If you want to pass some extra information, you can use metadata. Okay, here workflow metadata, one interface is there, one API, or you can say it's a class. So by using that, if you want to pass some extra information, you can easily pass it. So right now I'm just using two parameters here, workflow model and workflow data. Okay, we got the result. That means this workflow will execute. If you want to print this workflow, okay, on a result, so for that we have to use the response.getWriter. Okay, but before that, here if that exception will throw, so we have to print somewhere. So we'll use debugger. That means private static logger. static final logger logger factory dot get logger. Yeah, we got logger, and this is the class we have to write. Just simply copy, come here and paste it, dot class. Now it's done. Okay, we got it. We have to import, and which one we have to import? That is org slf4j. Just finished. Yeah, we have imported successfully. Now this is the information that I'm printing here. Showing workflow exception or error, you can say. Okay, this is the thing that I have written. Okay, e dot get message. Yeah, we have written get message, that is done now. Okay, we got it, and after that once it will execute, if I'll try to hit enter, then oh shit. Okay, if I'll try to hit enter, one blank page will open and we don't know it has executed or not. So for that, if you want to see these things, we have to print it. Okay, so I'm just for the example purpose, I'm just taking one variable, like just take one variable public string, and you can say workflow. I'm just taking this and I'm just passing some dynamic, that means static value. Okay, not executing. Here I have written not executing, and okay, so here I have defined this value, that means this is the variable that I define as a class level. Now the thing is, why I have defined this workflow? Because of we have to check our workflow is running successfully or not. So for that we need some message. Okay, so that message will store here and we will render this message to our result. Yeah, so thing is, here I am just using a get state, that means it will return the state. If that workflow is executed, then it will return the running state, executed state. If that workflow is running, then it will return the running state. Okay, so this method, that means this get state method, will return some things and we will store inside this workflow variable. So you can just simply come here, workflow, and just simply store inside here. Yeah, so after that, when that return will result inside this workflow, then what we have to execute, that means we have to print in our response. So how we can do that things? For that we have to write response dot get writer dot write. Yeah, and this workflow we need it, so you can just simply write workflow. Okay, this is the thing that we have written. Okay, now we have to deploy it, but before the deployment, just simply come here, and here you see how you have registered your servlet by using this by using this resource type, that is weekend component and the page. And after that, here we have a selectors and here we have a extension. So just simply go there. Here I have came and see, this is the EN. I'm going inside the JCR content, and here you see inside our resource type we have uses this resource type, that is weekend component and page. That means we can call by using this container, that is this, by using this controller. So I have copied, come here, we have to paste localhost 4502 and just simply paste it. So first time when I try to hit enter, it will return the forbidden error. Why it has written forbidden? Because of we have to write the selector and the extension. See that we have defined add and the txt, otherwise sub and json. So you can simply use dot add and the txt, hit enter. Okay, so now it has returning a 0. Okay, null pointer exception, maybe somewhere it has returning not found it. Okay, it has returning a not found. So localhost 4502 weekend us en. Okay, again we will try. Just come here, type localhost 4502, paste this code, and after that add and txt, hit enter. Okay, it has returning not found, that means okay, we have to deploy it, and after the deploy we will check it it has executing or not. So just come here and just try to deploy it. Okay, so now if I'll try to execute, okay, I have deployed successfully. Here you see. Now I'm just trying to be execute. So it is throwing a null pointer exception. Here you see here, it is showing null pointer exception. So from where that null pointer exception is throwing? So it is throwing online number 38. Why? Because of here we have passes the, we are taking the parameter. Okay, from here, from this URL we are taking the parameter that is page, but we don't have this page parameter inside our URL. So that by default it has stored the null value inside this payload, and that's why it has returning this null pointer exception. So if you don't want to throw the null pointer exception, so you can simply use the page, and after that your page. Which one is your page? Like here you see, come here, and for which page you want to execute this workflow. So I just want to execute this workflow for my EN page. So you can just simply copy equals to and paste it. Now this workflow will execute for this path. You can just simply try to hit enter. So it is running. Okay, what it's saying, it is running, but just go there and just try to see our workflow has executed successfully or not. Okay, just click here. Here we have a timeline, and just see versions. Okay, so we don't okay, so that version is not created. Why? Because of, see here 31 minutes ago that version was created, but now that version is not created, and we have performed this workflow for this EN page. Okay, so the thing is, we have to remove this JCR colon content. We don't need. Why we use this JCR colon content? For providing the properties. If you want to retrieve or store some property inside the JCR content, for that we use this JCR content. But now we have to perform the page related information. That means we want to create the page, we want to create the version for this page. So you can just simply hit enter. Now it is running. Okay, it is running the result. Now just try to go there and just try to refresh it, and just click inside this EN. Yeah, and after that just go in the versions. Now here you see, now our version has created successfully. Why? Because of we have only uses the EN. Here we have only uses the EN, not JCR colon content. So that's why it has returning successfully. So this is the thing, guys. If you want to create, or you can if you want to call by using the programmatically, then this is the way we have to follow. That all the API they have already provided. We have to first of all create the workflow session. By using this workflow session, before that we have to use the resource resolver, and using resource resolver we are converting into an workflow session. By using this workflow session, we are taking the model. After that we are taking the payload. Yeah, and here we have one method, that is start workflow. It has accept 3 parameter: workflow model, workflow data, and metadata. So it has metadata, that means if you want to pass some extra information, then you can use metadata. Yeah, and here by using the start workflow we are executing and we are returning the result, and this is the result. That means that status we are printing in our result. So this is the status that is showing, and here this is the thing that we have called by using the servlet. Okay, so thank you, guys.